hello. I figured I'd make an attempt at this and bring you a cool series of stories. Now, I know there is plenty of tabletop and story YouTubes, some very popular ones like Jaden Animations and Puffin Forest, which watching Dev finally gave me the inspiration to do this. But I have a very special story with special tabletop rules. The story is about the day my grandmother tried a Fallout dice game. And Fallout wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. My players weren't ready. The world wasn't ready. For Pistol Packin Grandma, Terror of the Wasteland. But okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. As one of my players began getting deeper, I told my grandmom about it. I explained it to her as, you're in a world where you can do anything humanly possible. It takes place in a 1950s post-apocalyptic game where you get skills on a sheet, and you use dice to see if you succeed or not using those skills. Grandma immediately got excited and said she wanted to play. And just to give you an idea what she's like, Grandma likes murder mysteries, history, 50s, and survival shows. This just felt like all the things she liked, except all wrapped up into something she can interact with. I was like, you wouldn't like it, Grandma. It's violent, mean, and hard. But I quickly learned she would like it. And be one of the two best players my wasteland would ever see. Pistol Packin Grandma, the most ruthless, tactical, and calculative character to touch my Fallout game. She wanted her character to have many names, one of course being Grandma. She then told me her backstory idea. She was an elderly woman from Pennsylvania. Her clothes change as often so she can't be tracked by her enemies. Starting with this outfit, she also starts off with an M1 Garand, due to her background as an antique dealer for her character. Her character heard from settlers about how they had ancestors that vanished during the 1943 Navy ship Eldridge. It's a little different than the real story, but it's a fun premise. Grandma heard this news of missing people and decided, that ain't right, and decided to chase it. It's something from a real actual conspiracy in real life. A newspaper in the 40s talked about that was about a military ship experimenting to test invisibility, but instead got time travel. In the real story, the ship vanished and then came back a few minutes later with the entire crew dead. But in this version, it just kept going and skipping over time throughout this entire period, clear up into the apocalypse. Grandma loved this story so much, she wanted it to be in her character backstory. To chase it when the Eldridge appears. Grandma in this is possibly so vague and ominous to the point she's borderline Lovecraftian. In this quest, Grandma went to the Mojave to collect military SS Eldridge-related documents being sold at basic merchants. She works her way to a town where a merchant caravan leader is hiring people for a simple day run. She gets hired after saying to him she used to be a nurse. Anyone with medical knowledge is essential to a good chance at surviving long trips. Things go slow until she gets to a checkpoint and meets 3 guys in an alleyway beating up a ghoul while calling him a zombie. They are 4 easy level 2 enemies with pipes and rusty crowbars. Okay, so Grandma, how do you want to handle this? Drop your weapons or I'll take his other kneecap out. If he runs out, I'll shoot higher. I mean it. Okay, it's dropped.
Now get your friend and get out of here.
Yeah, she came ready for making hard choices in the wasteland. The starter quest went pretty normal after that. She seduced a merchant to fix a broken wheel, shot a Brahmin that went mad from radiation poisoning, and lastly, they stopped at a military checkpoint. Originally, it was NCR ran, but players made the background lore that established a second Desert Ranger faction and fought the NCR, ending in a bloodbath of a shootout. Some Rangers split from the Desert Rangers and they joined the NCR. So,
These are the Nevada Rangers.
the newly established Ranger faction of my game. They had a small quest for her to do where she killed a nest of mole rats. She bargained to swap out the gun prize for a beat-up Jeep. They even accepted the idea of a full tank of gas for it. She decided at the last minute that she had a unique idea of how to deal with these mole rats. She made a ghillie suit from trash bags to hide, and after that, she did a thorough job at getting rid of them. After defeating it and getting EXP, she won her prize. The soldier who gave her the entire quest then explained, It's not me. My superior rejected the prize. She attempts diplomacy but fails. The superior introduces himself as Dante and then tells her he filled it up so she could be on her way. But, unknown to her, she only got a half a tank of gas in reality. She proceeded to take it and begin her travels, delighted with her far more impressive reward than what the caravan would have gave her. A few hours later, the Jeep putters to a halt and she realizes what happened. She's out of gas. I explain, you realize your Jeep is out of gas and it's about a 2 days walk to go back. Grandma replies, I don't care. They screwed me and I'm going back. I ask, when? When it's morning? She says, no, immediately. So through hellish conditions, raider encounters, and low ammo, she came across her caravan as it finally caught up. She uses her diplomacy to get her help with this situation. In return, they get the Jeep. She succeeds with a generous trade and spends the next few hours going back. She then arrived at the checkpoint doors and replies, You screwed me. The Jeep didn't have a full tank. Now I want a second one with
A full tank of gas.
after what you did to me. To set the scene for you, these guys were all level 6 rangers in full gear and huge group of about 30. They were well armed with 4 snipers and 2 minigun soldiers. The rest had rifles and revolvers. Dante comes to the door and tells her the work was barely worth a Jeep, let alone gas, and she should be thankful. They argue further, and after a few failed diplomacy rolls, he got aggressive and said he'd shoot her if she doesn't leave. So, she left and began carefully planning guerrilla warfare against the well-armed military base. She started by using her merchant connections to cut off trade to the base aside for contaminated food and radiated water. She returned a few days later with her armed caravan and replied, All right, Dante, if you want healthy soldiers, you'll work with me. Now I want 4 Jeeps and 4 full tanks of gas after what you did to me.
He chuckles and orders the soldiers to fire warning shots at her. She immediately backs off and goes back to planning. Over the course of months, hours in real time, she then learned that the trade wasn't that good at all. The Ranger faction ran settlements nearby. So, she carefully began to fix all the problems of the Ranger ran settlements, carefully replacing the law with armed merchants and kicking out the faction. With good trade of food, water, weapons, medicine, and the death of minor raiders causing problems, one by one she toppled the Ranger-controlled towns in quick succession. She then cut off trade fully. She then returned to the base with her caravan fully armed with pipe rifles and jury-rigged guns. Alright, Dante, now I want 8 Jeeps and 8 She's interrupted by the fire of 5 soldiers who took first shot. Dante shouts, Your caravan will die after those acts of terrorism against us, as 2 shots hit her immediately, knocking her health to bloodied quickly. A slaughter of a gunfight ensured. To the shock of the caravan, Dante's men mowed down their people with superior weaponry and skill. Between the frenzied Brahmin and fleeing merchants, Grandma grabbed an escaped Brahmin and immediately escaped with the rest of the fleeing people. I expected her to give up right then and there, since it nearly killed her character and slaughtered the faction she newly began. She calmed them down and gave a speech, citing the new towns they took, booming trade, and their sheer numbers. She proclaimed it wasn't an act of power what they did, but an act of fear for what they have accomplished. She promised them riches, doubling all they have already gotten and then some, if they follow her lead one last time. Otherwise, they have made an enemy of the Rangers at this checkpoint for the rest of their lives. With a fantastic speech, point, and a few great rolls, they were on board for one more time. But now, we fight differently, she replied. Over the course of a few days, they finally cut power to the base and waged her war. In quick succession, surrounding while throwing crafted Molotov cocktails at generators, buildings, tanks, and even tents. The men were far too busy in a total panic to fight them and the fires, giving Grandma and the merchants more than enough time to retreat. Buying a scope for her rifle, Grandma focused on fitting the men for one final attack. Using the last of her crafting material, she made explosives and gave to the men. Deciding on hiding herself on a nearby cliff, equipped with her trash bag ghillie suit, she stuck a large rusty pipe over the barrel of her rifle and went into place. Debuffed from contaminated food,
water, lack of sleep, low morale, and medical supplies. The soldiers of Dante were weak and low in health, and good rolls after all the bad stats were calculated. The merchants made their first move at attacking the entrance, shooting at the guards at their posts in such high numbers that even with low damage, it was chipping away at great amounts of damage with each turn. With Molotov cocktails to push the soldiers back, and pipe bombs to blow the doors open, they breached the entrance and had full attention of the Rangers. So the Rangers began to bring out the big guns.
Except unknown to them, Grandma began dropping the snipers with the help of her new scope. One after another, she began aiming at their guns, legs, and hands. With a stealth crit modifier, the ones who didn't die were too sick, crippled, and damaged to get proper shots on the merchants. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. The base fell to the level 1 Grandma, a bunch of pipe rifle-toting merchant NPCs. From ammo to guns and gear, merchants began looting the place of everything it had left over. 2 Rangers were left alive in the base, Dante and his bodyguard. Grandma had the 2 men stripped of weapons and ammo, and then she said, "Alright, Dante, now I'm taking all the vehicles and all the gas." Shocked and in complete dismay, he is tossed from his own base and given freedom to go to the next town without prosecution. Grandma explained she felt the best tactic for keeping enemies is fear. She wanted 2 alive to tell the tale of what happened at this base. Grandma left the base after all vehicles, from motorcycles, jeeps, to even water tankers. She had enough stuff to make a hefty amount of money and repay the merchants. I was completely shocked at how I saw it all turn out. I've never had a player go this in-depth or level of petty determination and tactics. I expected her to go rogue and maybe steal from bad guys or murder Hoga at the first realization of what Raider factions were, but I didn't expect this. It took me an entire page front to back of notes and tally marks for me to calculate the insane amounts of EXP she made. If I remember right, leveled up her to level 8, putting her 1 level above the group I was already playing with after a few years. Afterwards, Grandma then asked me to get her a glass of soda and said she'd like to play again, this time heading towards the military bases on her way to Pennsylvania. I mentioned the other factions of Fallout lore, and Enclave stuck out specifically to her. She said they should have been purged from the moment the Wasteland realized they existed. Her logic was that Vietnam was the moment she personally stopped trusting the military. They stopped being trustworthy after Agent Orange, she said. Thank you for those who watch my videos, and I'll have you know that we also have a Reddit and a Facebook. We also have a Twitter as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the stuff we have. Bye-bye!